Welcome, everyone, to the AMA District 1 March Zoom meeting. At the last meeting, we had Tyler Dobbs on, our government affairs person, and we got into further depth on talking about the regulations, FRIA and CBO status, and the clubs that the information the clubs were really most interested in knowing more about. We talked about controlled airspace, uncontrolled airspace. We're moving forward on that. This month's meeting primarily will be focusing on values and outreach, communications and multimedia, and then some of what we were trying to get to at a previous meeting, which to highlight some of the information in the program of work. And essentially that's going to talk about benefits and services that come to clubs, to members, to flying sites, to operations, and advancing AMA's mission members. So to move on from here, I don't know, Darren, if you want to make some introductions. If anyone's on right now and don't know who I am, I'm the District 1 Vice President for New England. We have some of our AVPs I see looking at the participants so far online as well. I'd like you to introduce yourself, but I'm going to turn it over to Darren because he will give you the first introduction. He's our co-host and he's also an AVP, and he can pass it on to another AVP too that might be on to introduce themselves. So Darren, why don't you take on that, and then you can go into providing some information for anyone that hasn't been on what I'm still finding complicated, even though I've been to dozens and dozens of these Zoom meetings. Something always goes wrong. Either I push the wrong button or whatever. So please be patient with me. Okay, go ahead, Darren.
We're trying to spool Andy up. I tell him to embrace the technology. So we're all trying to do that. We learn something new every time. So I appreciate everyone's patience. Like Andy said, my name's Darren Hudson. I'm one of the associate vice presidents of District 1. Just a little review because this question comes up in our meetings. It's come up in a couple of our Zoom meetings so far. Just to give you a background, this is a review for some, but it might be new for long-term members. Andy is the vice president of the district. There are 11 districts within AMA, and the vice presidents also serve on the executive council. They oversee the operation of the nonprofit organization of AMA. Underneath them and appointed by them are the AVPs, associate vice presidents, and we're sort of like the lieutenants. And the VPs can pick or appoint any number of AVPs that they wish. And different districts have different needs, and they all have different skill sets. So you want to have a mix of your leadership. So we're considered the volunteer leadership of AMA, VPs, AVPs. Below that would be the leader members. Right next to that would be the CDs and the EMs. They're all people who have access to all of you. Then the club officers, more of a direct contact, and then the members. That chain is a chain of communication and volunteer leadership. So that's kind of the theme I'm talking about tonight. So I just want you to kind of get in the mindset of that and have an idea of who these people are that are in the background doing these things. We're all one community. I mean, it's not a joke, it's a tagline, but it really means that we're all one community, and it's made up of volunteers and members. So I'm looking around and we have a few AVPs tonight. So I just want a quick hello. I'm just going to call on you guys. Tom Sywick, who's our newest AVP in District 1, he came walking to us and volunteered to us, and I applaud him for that, and that's fantastic. So how about just a quick hello, Tom?
Yeah, hi guys, Tom Sywick. As Darren said, I'm one of the newest AVPs for District 1, and I'm also the Vice President and Secretary of Central Massachusetts RC Modelers, which is based in Northborough, Massachusetts.
Great. Thanks a lot for being here again. Tom's attended every one of our Zoom meetings. It's been awesome. I see Steve Brem down there. Steve, say hi. Nice jacket.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, because I sometimes have a little problem with these Zoom meetings too. So yes, I'm Steve Brem, AVP. I work mostly with Andy, and I live in Rhode Island, and that's about it, I guess, you know.
Okay, I'll take care of that. we will ask, that was a very impromptu, but appropriate. Does everyone know how to use their mute buttons and navigate around Zoom, the chat room? And feel free to use the chat. I'll monitor that. And please try and keep muted for background noises. That was a great example. That was not scripted. But I have the ability to mute too. So if I mute you, it's not a slap in the face. It's just that there's background music, a background noise interrupting. I see Mark Montella down there. Mark, say hi. Mark. Test. Unmute, Mark. Hello, Mark. Mark's ghosting us right now. Okay, we'll try and catch him later on. Are there any other AVPs that I haven't mentioned that are here that I'm not seeing on the screen? I do see some club officers here. Thanks a lot. I see some CDs here. Awesome to be here. So thanks for being here. What I'm going to do is share the screen here, and I'm going to go through a PowerPoint. This is a read through, and I'm not going to hit every word on here. You guys can read, you can see. If you have any comments along the way, either do a raise hand or just, cough or interrupt and let us know that you have something to say. It's a casual presentation, but I think you'll find some of the people it will be a review, some it will not. What I want to emphasize is in this year of the club for AMA, it's a crucial subject. It's actually, this presentation includes 3, and I'll get started here. I'm going to share my screen. If you don't see the screen, just let me know. And I need to just reset this. When I get done, you should be looking at a screen that says the AMA logo on the left and District 1 on the right. Does everybody see that?
Yes. Got it.
Okay, great. Terrific. And while I'm doing this, I can see who's talking to me, and I'm not monitoring the chat. So if you do, just unmute and speak up. I'll try and pause and ask at the end of each slide as we go through. So let me, sorry about that. Well,
Hello, everybody.
Hello, Thomas. Tom's another AVP. Tom, we're just starting the first part of the program. I'm going to ask you to mute, but if you have questions or anything along this, please unmute and just say something while I'm running this program. Thanks for coming. All right, so what we're going to talk about is outreach, communication, and multimedia. Why is it important, and why do we do it? So outreach, basically, according to Google, an effort by individuals in an organization or group to connect. And I'll leave it there and you can read the rest. So connecting people. Why does AMA encourage it? Because we connect new modelers to clubs and members. We connect clubs to the AMA community through the district and national initiatives and activities. And we connect AMA to the general public outside of the aero modeling community. That last bullet is a real important one. And that's the main thrust of this year is getting outside of our clubs, outside of our parking lots, outside of our flight lines to the general public and letting them know all the good we do. Does anyone have any questions on this slide? Okay. So where do we start? We start by getting to know our clubs and our membership better. Their interests and activities, the members' skill sets, whether they want to volunteer, advocacy desires, and also, very important, their limitations and restrictions. How can we help them? Important, sharing accurate, honest, and current information with AMA and the community allows us to identify members interested in outreach activities and also where to send new prospective members to get a best fit. This next bullet is really important because we understand this. Accurately reporting also allows AMA to preserve the privacy of those members who choose to keep their hobby private. We understand that outreach is not for everyone, but we are a community. So we're just giving some suggestions on how we can all work as a community of volunteers. So we established communication. Sorry about that. We established communication. This is a real important one and one that's become of late doing these Zoom meetings and doing these email invitations. Club contacts. Who are they? John Yazamidas just came up with this a few days ago. They're the PR person for your club. That's the public relations person. They're the disseminator. They're the one that shares club, district, hobby, and AMA news with the officers and the members through email, phone, social media, whatever means you have. Good secretaries and good newsletter editors often make the good club contacts. Some qualities: fluent in email these days, have to be. Website browsing and use is a plus. Social media is an absolute plus. Someone who loves the hobby should go without saying, but you never know, and supports the club and AMA. If no volunteers step up, we rely on the presidents to take this role. You would assume that a president of a club is pretty engaged, and we're counting on that. Little humor down here at the bottom. If this is the reaction of your club contacts to email, internet, and social media, maybe you want to pick somebody else. Does anybody have any questions on this? Andy Argenio, raise your hand. Okay, Andy.
I did. I just wanted to bring out the last slide. We had talked about specific details with respect to a club. And, you know, one of the most important things that we're going to be moving forward with, and it'll be in part of the program of work presentation, but if we don't get to it, I'll mention it now because Darren did, is we need to know specifics about clubs, things that clubs oftentimes provide in their details that go on that district website, on the national website, in terms of being an open club or a capped club, in terms of membership, often reflect the status of your club at one time, but not the current status. What I'm saying here is if you have a club with capped membership, it doesn't necessarily mean that you've reached your cap. You may in fact still have openings for other members. So that question that you provide when you put the details out and end up on the national website, you need to answer it in such a way that we know as officers, when we're recommending someone to go to a site, we don't hold anything against any club who has a closed membership, whether it's because of the property, the public that you're dealing with, the manager of the properties, what types of land it's on, whether you don't have parking. All we need is to have the right answers. I brought up this point, and I wanted to say it to Darren, that I was just doing the grant proposals and that clubs put in for grants. So each of us as a VP has an opportunity to assign someone for that. We had 90 people apply for grant programs. I've gotten through nearly 3/4 of them. I'm going to finish the last quarter in the next few days. And I did notice in nearly all the responses that the clubs were saying they had open membership. And several of the clubs that I'm quite familiar with had reached their cap and their membership was closed. And so it would behoove them to let us know that so that we don't have to send people to a club and then you have to turn them away. We would rather have you not do that. We'd rather have you send them to another club or welcome them at least into the hobby and then say to them, hey, go to this other club. They have an opening, they fly electrics, we don't, or whatever the status is. So we're looking for that input to not make it more difficult for you, but less difficult for you and much more easy for us to match the right people up to the right club. If there's anybody that wants to comment on that, would you do so now? If you do, is there any of you club presidents that have had concerns relative to that?
I'm Randy Holtzbrief. I'm the president of the CMRCM Club. That's Central Mass Radio Control Modelers, and we're in Northborough, Mass, Westborough, Mass, right on the edge. Our club has been open forever. We actually were established in 1962. And the only time that we turned members away was about 25 years ago. And it was a group of pilots that came out of digital equipment that basically kind of inundated the club. There were like 40 people showed up literally in 1 month. So our club membership is currently limited to 75. And at one point, about 4 years ago, we were close to that number, and we just simply had a meeting with the club and took a vote, and we upped the number so that we could make sure that we could keep people coming in. So there are trivial ways of adjusting the club size and still maintaining your club bylaws and your club charter. And in our case, we're also a nonprofit. We're a registered corporation. So that's just my my note on the fact is that those caps can be modified rather easily.
That's a
Randy,
good.
excellent
that's a
point,
good
Randy.
summary.
Yep.
Darren, I also noticed that Ed from the Salem Prop Busters Club, the president, is with us tonight. And Ed, can you tell us how many members you have in your club and how you've handled it?
Sure. Yeah, thanks, Andy and Darren. Our club, we've been a AMA club since 1937. And so we've been around a long time. We have an open membership the whole time. We currently have 208 members. And surprisingly, we have a pretty good field, pretty good sized field with a separate heli field. But we have not found that we've had any issues with, too many people showing up and not being able to get flying time. Just our regular census during the day, we kind of have two populations of flyers, of pilots. There's the retired guys who typically do the 9 o'clock to 1 o'clock deal during the week. And that's typically anywhere from 15 to, I'd say 15 to 30 on a real maximum day, but usually 15 to 20. And on the weekends, nice weekends, we'll get anywhere from 15 to 30 flyers. And there'll be occasional spikes, but we've never had an issue. We've got 4 flying stations plus the heli field. And we've never had an issue where we've had to limit flying, or we've had unhappy customers.
Yeah.
Ed and Randy, great comments. That's awesome. Awesome way to back this up. Andy jumped ahead on me a little bit, but I caught up to him and put this slide up. So I just want to reiterate some of the high points on this page. One is we're always looking for the best fit. And I don't know if Andy said it or not, but we've talked about this a lot. The clubs are the product of AMA. And we sell the clubs on what fits best for each member and each person. So the better we know that product, the better we can sell it. And vice versa. I don't want to sell a basketball to somebody who's going to go play hockey. So we need to know what you do, and more importantly, what you don't do. And the fact is, we're not judging with that. We're getting information so we can, if necessary, leave you alone or get you people that you do want and that fit with what you're doing. So when you put on those forms for the renewals, open, it suggests open to all new members, open to all disciplines, open to all activities, and you're fully engaged to the level you can be. That doesn't mean that you have to let everybody in. What you also have on that form is a place where you can put notes about your activities. You can put your restrictions in there. If you have restrictions or limitations, that's cool. Let people know about them so they don't come knocking when they're doing something they know that you restrict. And yep, go ahead. Yep.
Yeah, and just one quick one. And and Tom, I see Tom's still on, so this is helpful. We recently did have a situation, and that situation was that an individual came and wanted to join the club, and he showed up with a park flyers, which has limited liability. And we lease our property from Fish and Wildlife in the Department of Fish and Wildlife in the state of Massachusetts. And we write our liability insurance policy to the state. And as part of that agreement, you need to be a full member. Interestingly enough, the AMA has nomenclature that says adult member, senior member, full member, park flyer member, and it gets a little bit confusing, but what we just recently had to do is exactly as you were suggesting. We had to update our application for the club to show that you needed to have a full adult or senior or youth membership, not just a park flyer membership. And the individual that brought it to our attention, we told them, come on back and we will fly with you, because there's several of us that are instructor pilots, and give you an idea of what clubs can do for you and try to convince you to change your mind about your park flyer situation, because the parks in our area will not allow you to fly. So we're hoping he comes back, but I just wanted to let you guys know that those are issues.
And that was perfect. What you did with that person, you explained to that person, you brought that person flying, and you noted it accurately in your listing. So that is exactly what this is about. So for Randy, this is a review for you. That's awesome. But I'm glad you're interjecting some real world experience and positive influence over what we're talking about here. The last thing I want to mention on this page, and I'm going to move to the next page, which rolls right into what Randy was talking about, is the whole cap business. All we ask is you can cap your membership, that's fine, but consider the ratio of total members to active members. And by active members, those that are using the site on a regular basis. When I joined Fremont Flyers, I was alone at a beautiful farm field that we have in Fremont. And I would see one or two other people, and that's a club of 50 some odd people. On the weekends, maybe 10 or 12. That is not a situation that a club needs a cap for. So we're just asking for some consideration, like Randy just talked about, is adjust them as necessary. These things ebb and flow, they change. So adjust them as necessary and consider that opportunity to not only let somebody else into the community and the club, but also help your club out. So any other questions on this slide? And I'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, I actually have a comment for Andy to possibly, take back to headquarters. For those of us that manage our rosters online on the AMA website, they should maybe consider including a checkbox on that screen that, you club administrators could check that says open to new membership or open to new members or something like that, so that when prospective members pull up the club finder page on the AMA website, it'll have a little indicator on there, just like it indicates intro pilot clubs and leader clubs, a small icon or something that reflects that that club is actively open for new members. And that might be yet another tool to enhance visibility to people as they're seeking out clubs. And it could just be something is checking a box on the page where the club officers have to manage their membership rosters.
And Tom,
it's a good idea.
Go ahead. I was going to say, Andy, probably going to say the same thing.
I was going to say it's a good idea. I should let you know that as we move forward, it's likely that on a national level, as well as on a local level, that we are going to be surveying, we are going to be gathering more information, we are going to be profiling clubs, so that by profiling them, we're going to eliminate the need for them to get extraneous information or from us that doesn't relate to their particular club or the things that are going on, especially if they have a closed membership. With regard to park pilots situation, some states do allow some of the local parks that are controlled by the municipalities and the towns to operate without having to have full adult membership in the AMA with full coverage, but with the diminished club coverage. And I do know in the state of Massachusetts, for example, conservation and wildlife have different perspectives and how they approach that. And that also depends upon who the supervisor is for the particular sites, because I've even had sites with different supervisors in the public not addressing it the same way. So I think you have to really find out at the site you're at what that supervisor may or may not allow. Obviously, when we talk about public sites, people may argue the point it's a public site. How can you not do that? And sometimes we're supported because we're told that we have control over the site when we sign our license agreement. For example, Randy does have a license agreement with Wildlife and Fisheries that each year, and so do the other 10 or 12 ones in the state of Massachusetts have to do the same thing. So when they sign off on particular things, it's written into those agreements. But that all comes back to the same point that Darren made and that you're making too, Tom. We have to have a way to let people know that, especially now, because as we approach September and freer sites start to be designated, the problem that we see that's going to happen is that people are going to think, I got to go to a freer site. That's the only place where I can fly without remote ID. And we don't want our club swamped. We want the FAA to make sure that they too, when they list out the freer sites on their mapping system, will include exactly what you said, Tom. Some kind of check that indicates, are these clubs open? Do they have to have special, do they have to join the club? Do they have to become members of the club? That's why we're still fighting rule number 9157C, because contained in that advisory circular is still a statement that says you can go out and fly using any community-based organization's set of guidelines. And
Andy,
you
you're
can-
jumping ahead, buddy.
Yeah,
Andy,
okay.
you're jumping ahead.
I'll let you proceed with that.
All right, yeah. Tom,
Yeah,
what I was gonna say,
can I jump in? Dave
absolutely,
Crest,
yeah.
Cape Ann?
Yeah, go ahead.
We had an issue with drones several years ago. We were in a residential, somewhat close to a residential area. The residents complained that drones were flying over their property. It wasn't clear it was our people, but we lost the site. So we moved to another site, which is also close to residential. I'm the club contact when people contact me and they say they want to do drones. I say we've got restrictions that you can't use the goggles, you can't fly outside the field, several other things, and they never show up. And things have gone pretty well, and we're concerned about that. But that's the only restriction we have.
Yeah, and you have the right to do that, and at least you make it known to them the reasons why, and that's perfectly fine. Every club should be able to set the standards that they know work for the membership and what the membership really wants. And we'll always support you on any of those kind of decisions. I think the one thing Darren always says, though, when you're doing that, as long as you be welcoming, cordial, and you tell them another club they may be able to go to. And we're thinking that once we get detailed information that represents factual information and we supply it to surrounding clubs, then you as a club will be able to pick up the paper and say, hey, here's some clubs that particularly fly electrics. They do the small size. They only go up to 4 pounds, but here's where you might want to go. And you'll have something that you'll be able to use as a tool to present to them as well. And we're hoping that that helps the whole problem situation with regard to the differences between clubs.
Hey, Tom, I'm following up on your comment. The project of work, which Andy wants to talk about later on, the project of work involves updating the Finder function on our website, for AMA's website. So moving ahead to the next, Andy's been touching on this stuff, so we're gonna get right to it. It's good timing. He just said this, and I have a question for Dave also. Dave, is that stuff written in your club charter when people search your club as far as restrictions? That's something to consider too.
I don't see that there's not a good place to put that in the form, the renewal form.
Actually, activities. Under activities, you can put those notes. And again, we're going to try and make that clearer for clubs. We're going to give a few more choices.
That
So
would be good.
I just want to look at this. And so what Andy iterated, no matter what we do, could everybody mute, please? Johnny, I think you're not muted. There you go, bud. Thanks. No matter how our clubs are set up, whether you're open, restricted, limited, or capped, please, please always be welcoming to anybody who comes in and visits. We all represent our clubs, AMA, and the hobby community. Mom always said, if you can't say something nice, don't say anything at all. So I put this up here for a little comic relief. Do we want to have a hand in somebody's face, closed, and no trespassing? Or do we always want to try and be welcoming? I think you know the answer. Andy, why don't you share, de-identified, but why don't you share an example from, sadly to say, the last 2 weeks? And it's a pretty telling story, and it disturbs us for this point directly right at the top of this page, because this shouldn't be a reminder for anybody. So Andy, go ahead. If you can be brief and share that story.
Well, I mean, the story is talking about in that particular week that happened about several weeks ago, actually happened with a couple of clubs. I got phone calls from members, and I'm glad that at least they reached out beyond the clubs. One was from a Navy pilot who had flown for a number of years, was in the Navy, full-scale aircraft, was also the owner of a number of private types of aircraft. I forgot the number, but well in the total of 20, had gotten older, and he was really not flying full scale anymore. And he wanted to get back into RC modeling. And he went out and took some of the early kits he had, and he built his models as I built them in those days, the SIG kits and whatever, and put his glow motors on them. And he showed up at one of clubs in District 1. He had 4 airplanes with him, and he asked if he lives right near them. He said, "I'd like to join the club," and he was immediately told, "We have a closed membership, and we're not taking on any new members." And he said, "Oh, all right." And then from there, the guy just walked away and left him on the other side of the fence. And so he said, I felt like, I had done all this work, and this is the club closest to me. And I wish he had said a little bit more to me, or maybe looked at my airplanes or offered some suggestions. So essentially, I'm saying what we've already said. You've got to learn the proper etiquette. And John Yasamidis brought up a good point, and Darren mentioned it earlier, about choosing the right type of people and telling someone and having the club understand you really need a public relations guy, someone that's open, someone that comes up and greets people and says, "Hello, how are you? Oh, you're interested in air remodeling. Oh, you have some planes in the car. Well, you have to be a member, but come on, bring them out. Let's look at them. Let's see if we can adjust them for you, fix them. Maybe we'll even take them up for you and fly." Well, luckily, I turned him on to 2 clubs I knew that had open membership. One of them did exactly that. Called him down, and he told him, he said, "We have limited membership, but we're going to take you in. We're going to help you. We're going to get your planes flying. We're going to let you know as soon as we have an opening. We're going to pull you in as a member." And that could be any day now, because we're getting into the season where not all of our members have rejoined. So we think you're in good standing. And so he went there. So the point to all of this is that we hope that clubs will, and this is why we're saying it, that you pass and share this information to the clubs, because we don't want to turn people away, but at the same time, we don't want to change our operation to suit what they have to do that doesn't complement what we're doing, but we have to let them at least have an opportunity to express themselves and feel that they're welcome into the sport of aero modeling.
Thank you, Andy. Thanks a lot for sharing that. A follow on to what Andy said is, how could that scenario been a little different? The guy comes in with his planes. The person going to meet him knows the membership's closed, knows that there's no opportunities or there's a wait list. Does that prevent him from spending 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour with the guy, welcoming into the community? And then when you're done, explain, after you have some fun, explain to him, well, for this reason or that reason or whatever, we're not accepting members right now, but I can put you in touch with our district leadership, or I know of a guy over at another club that's local to here. We have that advantage in New England to have a lot of clubs fairly close to it, one another. So basically, if you're not that person, then don't go greet that stranger. Let somebody else greet them. We're here to do that, but Andy's scenario really upset me, because it shouldn't take a real, I don't know what to call him. He was persistent. It shouldn't take a persistent person getting turned around and turned away to go contact the district VP that he finds in a magazine to help him get to a club. It shouldn't take that with our community. So I don't want to belabor that point, but it's important. And we need to share that and send that message loud and clear that we always have to be welcoming regardless of what the situation is. So down at the bottom here, I have CBO and FRIA. Andy, do you want to take that, or do you want me to just read off the prepared stuff I had for the video presentation I did? Because it kind of takes care of it in a concise manner. What do you think?
Oh, go ahead. If I get
All right, so I recorded this PowerPoint, guys. It's on our YouTube channel. I'm going to just briefly go through some of the resources and where to find them. But this is what I said about that on the recording. It says CBO, community-based organization. An official requirements being developed by FAA for the coming year as legislated by the Reauthorization Act. AMA has been considered the premier CBO for aeromodeling for decades. The requirement includes providing an independent safety mitigation program, which AMA has operated under for decades. You guys know that, the safety code. FRIA's FAA remote identification area, the applications are being scheduled to be available the fall of this year. FRIA applicants will need to be associated and operate within authorized CBO programming. The FRIA process will include educational institutions, schools, universities, so opportunities exist to not only preserve but expand our flying site network through educational outreach, possibly creating shared use venues. And here's the kicker that relates to this slide. Visitors will likely show up since the FAA will have a record of FRIA sites. The AMA is lobbying for language, which will include the fact that some FRIA sites will be the home of some long established chartered AMA clubs, and membership may be required. We're really pushing hard for that language to be there. Being welcoming to all those visitors encourages friend raising and expanding the AMA membership and strengthening our community. So it's really important, this concept of being welcoming regardless. Does anybody have any questions on that? I know that was a lot of stuff. No questions? Okay.
Darren,
Yes.
this is Don Dodia.
Hi, Don.
Will AMA go out and get the FRIA applications for all the clubs, or is that going to be something each individual club will have to reach out to themselves?
That's a process that's being developed, and we're trying to streamline that process as best possible. Right now, it's being produced as we speak. Andy, you want to speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, I'll talk a little bit about the FRIA thing. You know, essentially in order to establish yourself as a FRIA, you have to send in an application. The application can only come from a community-based organization. Or the community-based organization can assign eligibility to a particular person or a club. Whether we're going to assign it or whether we're going to take on the responsibility, we'll know better as we work with this with the FAA on the FRIA process. And that's what I talked about earlier when I said, I noticed in this New Months magazine, when you get it, you'll see an article relative to that written by Tyler Dobbs with respect to the FRIA sites themselves. So here's what I'm anticipating. I'm anticipating that we'll probably come up with a form. The form will ask particular questions. It'll say the name of the eligible person from the club who may submit if we go that route, or we'll give you a form to fill out and then we'll submit it so you won't have to get involved at all. We'll have the name of the individual making the request on behalf of the eligible person. Then a declaration that that individual making the request has the authority to act on the behalf of the entity, which is the club. And then it goes on to say the physical address of the proposed FRIA, the location of the proposed FRIA, if applicable, a copy of any existing letters of agreement, if you have one. If you're in uncontrolled airspace and you don't have one, well, then you don't have to worry about that. A description of the intended, this is something I didn't get. They want to describe, they may want, and this was in formally in 48909, the original Reauthorization Act of 2018 that I'm reading from. It said a description of the intended purpose of the FRIA and why the proposed FRIA is necessary for that purpose and proposed area. Well, for Christ's sakes, it was essential because we fly model airplanes. I mean, what other reason would we want to go through this process if it wasn't for that? And, so I'm a little put back by some of the questions that they may put in. Now, this may not be included in the final process that they come out with, why you want that property, but that's the reason. Any other information required by the FAA administrator. So the administrator has the right at any time to make exemptions and to alter what this original document was that I read from under 89.205, one of those hundreds of pages that were included in the Reauthorization Act. So I personally think that what we have seen, and Darren will tell you this year, working with safety risk management, we have seen such a change that it has shocked us, just like it did early on when in 2019, we saw what was onerous legislation that came back to us that left us flying still as we are flying today without having to include new technologies in our radios and other equipment. We saw the FAA do a complete turnaround from when I started, and I started in 2004 with the AMA, but even after that, when the drone issues all came about in 2008, at that time, we saw that the FAA would not listen to us when we said, you can't have a one-size-fits-all for people flying drones and people flying traditional aircraft. Well, we fought for over a decade, and this was the first time that I have seen the FAA in these meetings that Darren and I went to this year, a number of them throughout the district, that people from ALPA, of course, EAA supports us, but the helicopter people that were flying medical, all the other people involved in aviation that are stakeholders on these meetings who gave us pushback. Guess who supported us the most? It was who was it, Darren?
FAA.
FAA stepped up to the plate. And you know what they said? Oh, those are the drone pilots. These are the RC model aircraft pilots. When I heard that, a bell went off in my head. I said, almost, how many years? 18 years I've been fighting. Since 2008, just this issue. And this is the first time I have seen them actually separate during a safety risk management panel, drone flyer operation from model aircraft traditional operation. And I felt tremendous about that. So that's the plus side of sometimes doing these meetings. We're making a change. We're making and influencing by our actions the way the FAA looks at us and what we do and how we do it. And as we educate them, if you remember, they had us flying in a globe that was geo-fenced in. Imagine if we had to do that. I don't know if you ever flew one of those apprentices that bounced off the geo-fenced walls. But when you combine them with traditional aircraft, flying a race car pattern with the dome as it gets smaller, you're going to have an accident. In fact, they pulled it off the market because the planes would bounce into the wall and then the flight controller would take over. The plane would turn around and it was heading where? Right in the flight path of regular aircraft moving. So when they come out and we get them at our site and we show the FAA and describe to them what we're doing and how we do it, you know what? These are bright guys. They listen, they learn, and they support us. Go
Yep.
ahead,
It's
Dave.
and it's about outreach. It's about
Dave-
informing. It's about educating, and that's what we've done.
Dave has his hand up. Dave is.
Yeah, go ahead.
When we do this free application, is someone going to come out and inspect our airfield or interview us or anything of that sort?
I don't believe so. I mean, I think that the process, let me put it this way. Our experience with clubs in controlled airspace, where we're flying in a much more risk potential area, has been that we can do most of this now with a Zoom process, very simple. The members come on, we come on, the stakeholders come on, and we make a presentation. In the recent presentations, even at Martha's Vineyard, where there was, how many aircraft were flying over that particular site at Martha's Vineyard? At, I think, 47,000 in a year. I mean, the crisscross traffic, and Darren could talk on this subject, was immense. And we managed to put through a 400-foot altitude for a club site that had 0 feet 0 feet to look forward to. We didn't think we'd get it, but we told them the club was there 15 years, no incidents, good relationship with the people that run the tower, the ATC people. And the reason is because they live on the island with them. And after we got through with this, I think it lasted what, about 4 hours, Darren, or 5?
It was closer to 6, and I won't belabor this meeting with all of that. The point is what Andy was also saying is we are setting precedent at all these SRMPs. And there was one out in Detroit today that went about 12 hours. That another one was setting precedent. We are achieving the goals. Believe me, you don't want to sit in on these, because for us, it's frustrating. As Andy said, it has taken a decade for epiphanies to occur, where now they are finally realizing what we've said right from the start is that one size does not fit all. Operations do determine risk. And when they talk about drone operators, they're not talking about drone modelers. They're not talking about FPV racers. They're not talking about all the accepted hobbyists and recreational modelers. They're talking about the nefarious folks. They're talking about the folks who are causing trouble. So they are distinguishing the two. So it's very beneficial. I want to continue with this because I know we could keep on going all night on this, but we do have a previous Zoom meeting recorded that has a lot of this information in it. So I would encourage people looking at that. So this is almost to the end. I have to emphasize something that Andy has been spending a ton of time on, and that is this website. Some of you have seen this website before, not enough. We need membership to go here. We need you to click on www.amadistrict-i.org. We need you to browse and look at it. I could spend hours tonight. I'm going to spend minutes. We want you to join the site. The reason for that is we want to vet AMA members utilizing some of the features that you can use here. And we also want you to bookmark it so you visit it often. And more importantly, please share it with your club websites, your Facebook groups, and your newsletters. These are your resources. Andy has created this new site to be one click away, and it's one click to most, if not all, of the resources you need. And we are open to suggestions. If you want to see something else on this site, more resources or different types of resources, let us know, and we can try and put them on there. So I'm going to give you a short tour of the website. I'm going to ask, bordering on plead, that you go on, you browse, and you join.
Darren.
You guys still hearing? You guys still hearing me?
Yeah. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
Yes.
I have just got clicked off twice. So I'm having problems with signal here. So I've been off for about, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes here. I don't know if it freezes me on the screen or what. So if you miss me, I'm going to try to get back on. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get back on. We'll see what happens.
You're running the meeting, so I don't know what that's going to do. Why don't you, is everyone here? Everybody check out. I'm going to stop sharing right now and check the group. Everybody's still here, Andy. Don't go anywhere.
Okay. And when I was
We're
off,
still online.
while I was off, you guys were still operating. So apparently it can operate under your co-host.
Yeah.
But I was off, completely off. I just came on.
I was talking about the wonderful work you're doing on the website.
Well,
All right.
it's
So
nothing
everybody's
to
still
do
with
with
me.
my
So I want to.
connection.
Okay. Well, I want to give people a tour on this and really emphasize that I want you to go here and join it because it's a worthwhile resource. And give me a second and I'll share this.
Our intention while he's looking for this, when this first opening page was developed, was to give you an easy one-click method to get to the places you want to be without having to go through a process of several or more different locations, which you have to do on AMA's national site. And they're now doing what we've done already on that site, but with a more modern theme than we have. We're working on a more modern theme for this site, but the idea behind it is to make you get to where you need to be with just like a channel selector on a TV. How do I get to this part? You go to it, Darren loves it because he uses it on his smartphone, and he just simply pushes a button to get to where he needs to be. But he'll give you a good demonstration of that. Go ahead and do it so they see the.
All right. So, okay, I'm going to ask you to let me do it. We banter back and forth, folks. So we actually love each other. So don't worry about that. So I'm going to try and bring you from the top and bring some key items on this page. Number one, I keep on emphasizing it. Join. You hit join there. You follow the directions. It basically gives us a little information about you, and it allows you to participate in the blogs, and more importantly, to upload media. And by media, I mean on the homepage when I go back, I just want to point out one thing. We do allow non-members to come here and browse and take a look at things and use the resource. But in order to participate and upload media, we want to make sure that they're AMA members. So that's part of the vetting process. Craig Perry, you have your hand raised. What can I do for you?
I was going to say, check out the certificate on the website, because when I tried to connect to it, it gave me a certificate error. Tells me the site is not secure, and it isn't. It has, versus the HTTPS and the certificate, it has a person with the slash through it. So you may want to talk to your web person and have them do a secure SSL certificate. So, because a lot of people are going to try to go, like in my case, my antivirus tried to stop me from connecting to it. So
that is awesome information. We didn't know how severe that was, but thank you very much for bringing that to our attention, and we'll address that immediately. So let's assume that is going to be remedied, and let's continue. So like Andy said, I've turned this into basically my RC bookmark driver. I've gotten rid of my long list of bookmarks and favorites, and I just use this, and you'll see why in a minute. When I talk about uploading and utilizing the benefits of the site and the reason you need to join, you can upload your event flyers on this left side, and they run on a continuous slideshow. And we've got about 23 events on here. These are sanctioned and non-sanctioned events. So if you have a flyer, you can put that flyer up here on the website, and you can get some more free advertisement. That's one function. The other one is the other side. And the reason we have that is because not everyone does have Facebook, and they're not on social media. So here's an opportunity for them to upload pictures and share what they're doing around the community. This was some guys from the NCRCC. They posted this on Facebook. I dragged it off of that. They were at a car show, non-aviation, non-RC related, and they brought some great models to the car show, and a few of them came by. So they were doing some public outreach, getting it out beyond our hobby community. Some other ones that are on here. Who's this handsome guy with a nice little Boy Scout? He's in the crowd. Tim Souter is usually at these meetings. I don't know if Timmy's here. I can't see the full list while I'm doing the presentation, but we got educational outreach, we got public outreach, we've got club activities, you name it, and they're being shared with the rest of the community for those who aren't on Facebook. Okay, and this is pretty much limitless. We can add stuff in here, and I like to put identification on them, either on my phone, or you can make captions on the photos themselves, just like this one. All right, so that's another reason to join. This is really the power of this front page now, is you have one-click access to sanctioned events. You have one-click access to club finders, and this is preloaded with all the clubs of District 1. You click this, and you're going to get all the clubs of District 1 all listed out alphabetically. And, you know, when you go to club details, this is where you can talk about, and I just picked this arbitrarily. You can talk about club restrictions, club benefits. These are all open type boxes where you can fill in things. Activities permitted. You can add some notes in there with your different restrictions or limitations. Going back to the site. Below that, we have some safety programming videos. This one, all the CDs and the EMs in the group, the event managers, this is talking about the new Form 10 or the new contest and event package. It involves all the details, what you're using for registration at your events. Over here is our most recent Zoom meeting. This is February. Marches will be up there soon. All your District 1 resources, the Facebook platform. We go to Facebook. This Facebook group is a little bit bigger than the website right now at 382 members. I'd love to see that double or triple. And this is your Facebook group. Join the group. We ask that people are AMA members to join. We just vet them a little bit. And we've got all sorts of stories in here. You'll see a lot of my posts in here, but Kyle Jarris was posting about Camp AMA, some information there. He's from headquarters. AMA headquarters follows us on this website or on this Facebook group. I try and post information that's going to help modelers, give them information. I just came up with a hashtag for it to make it easier to navigate to some of the posts, but use this resource. It's for you. And I want to see more people interacting with it.
Mhm.
All right. I won't belabor it. The best way to do this is to go and browse. We have a YouTube channel, and the YouTube channel is housing all sorts of videos, our public outreach, our educational outreach, all these playlists are here, different activities throughout the district with club activities. This recorded version of what I'm doing right now is on here as well. Right here, District Outreach Communication and Multimedia. It's all recorded. Basically, you can listen to it as a podcast or as a video. But there's a bunch of good videos on here that you can watch about the activities. If you have more, we're looking to populate this with more interest, areas of interest. MA Magazine, the Model Aviation Magazine columns are here. District Zoom reports. All the AMA portholes are here. Podcasts, flight school.
Yeah.
Flight school for people who are new that have to take the trust right here. The importance of taking this AMA trust through the AMA portal is we want as a community to show the FAA that we are producing more of the people taking the trust. There's several different operators of the trust test. We prefer our AMA and our modelers do it through the AMA trust portal. FAA registration, if you have to renew, right here. AMA store, we got tops and caps here. RC suppliers, you name it. Documentation for the safety handbook, annual reports, the program of work. This is a cool little new initiative from AMA. If people haven't seen it yet, it's called AMA Snapshots. There's video and still versions. You fill out a form with a couple of pictures and some descriptions, and it tells a little story about your experience with AMA. I actually just had one of these done, and Lee sent it to me tonight, believe it or not, and he just finished it out. So they even let goofballs like me have a snapshot. This is my daughter. This is in the 330 cockpit, and this is my friend Adi Kochav, who I do IMAC with, and I'm giving him a ride back to Tel Aviv, Israel. So cool little thing to share some experiences throughout the community with other members. So that's just another benefit that's on here. Down at the bottom, more YouTube channels and a bunch of Facebook groups. And then way at the bottom here, great resource here, UA Sidekick, free through the AMA portal. You just click on that and you can sign up for UA Sidekick. This is a great benefit. Make sure you get the one with AMA. You should have an AMA logo on the top of it when you're done. I'm hoping it loads quickly. And what this allows you to do is have access to not only the airspace, but see all the AMA symbols on there. This is 495 Rowley. So over here, one of my clubs, Plum Island. Gives you a whole indication, gives you all the information about Plum Island with the contact and everything else. And it also has the grid system for Lance built right into it. So if we zoom in and we go near an airport over here, going to eventually get to the grid, and it tells you what that grid altitude is. See if I can get you to see. That's just tough with the internet access here at the house. There you go.
You gotta be patient with it because it can be really slow.
Yeah, there we go. Okay, there we go.
There it is, there it is.
So this is close to Lawrence Airport, and you can see the grid system. And what that does is, as you move farther out, you can see the grid increases. So this is when we go to the SRM panels. This is the number we're fighting when we go to get clubs higher altitudes. This is what we're looking at, and this is around the airports. This is controlled airspace. You can see these zeros. Just for reference, the Martha's Vineyard that Andy was talking about, their club in reference to this runway, this is not their runway, but if it was this runway, their club was out here somewhere about 1.2 miles away, right in the zero grid. We got them 400 feet, which was amazing to all of us. It was kind of crazy. I couldn't believe that we got that. So UA Sidekick, great resource. It's right there on the website. Obviously you can spend hours browsing through all this. Just please go and join. We'll take care of that security issue and make sure that's available for everyone. So I appreciate everybody having the patience to go through that. Let me go back and.
Darrell, I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Last year I took the trust test and I printed out a copy of my certificate, but I misplaced it. So guess what? I found out that you cannot go back and reclaim it. I had to take the test all over again.
No.
Yeah,
That's
but
true.
you know what? You know what's great about that, Tom? What do we know about the test? What do we know about the test? It takes 15 minutes and you can't fail it. So
I know,
that
but
was
the
your
thing is-
punishment for losing it.
but you know, I went on the AMA website and I found someplace, I can't remember where, that it actually did say that if you lose it, you can't recover it. You got to take the test again.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of
Exactly, yeah.
foolish.
And if,
Well,
well,
That
you
was,
go to the-
Can I
That was
make a
like-
point that might help you out, Thomas? At CMRCM, our secretary, Tom Swick, we require all of our members to provide their AMA number, their trust number, and their FAA number.
We do too.
And so what happens is that if you lost your trust number, in our case, if someone loses their trust number, they just give Tom a call or shoot him a text, and he can tell them what their trust number is. Any of the
I know, but the FAA says that you must show evidence if you're asked by any
Yeah,
law
they actually need
enforcement
that
office
certificate.
that you have it.
They actually need that certificate, unfortunately.
Right. Now,
and,
for example, on my FAA one, I can go back anytime and download another copy of it,
That's true.
but I can't do it for the trust.
Yes, and that was not our doing. And it does say when you go through the AMA portal, there's a video there. And Chad, I think, is the one that does the video, the executive director, and he does emphasize that. And we always recommend when you complete the test, take a picture of it for your phone and then make a copy of that, or save it or email it to yourself. A couple of different methods to save it. Randy, I just want to make a correction here. You were saying last name Sweck, and I think I was mistaking that with Tom Sywek. Not the same person, correct?
No, same person, same person.
One and the same, and I'm used to my name being pronounced all different kinds of ways. So
Okay, I wasn't sure, but I wanted to make sure he wasn't going back and telling his
no,
secretary he's the new AVP.
it's one and the same, and
Yeah, all right.
and yeah, we as a club have elected to capture and record that information of our members.
Yep.
And I think it is important to also emphasize, and we've done so with our members, when you take that test, print out a copy of that and keep that with all the documentation that you should have with you at the field. Your AMA card, your FAA registration card, and that trust number certificate. It purposely prints out in like a 3x5 card size, so that you can have a copy with those other cards, because technically to be legal,
You gotta have.
you gotta have your FAA card, your AMA card, and your trust card, because if, let's say, someone from the AMA decides to audit or come out to the field and ask somebody flying for that information, to be legal, you gotta have both of those pieces of information on you.
Just an important point I want to make, Tom. The AMA is not going to be doing that. The FAA
Right,
might,
exactly.
local law enforcement might, but we're not going to be doing that. We are
Right.
not the cops.
Right.
No,
And
but
you know, as another point, and Tom, correct me if I'm wrong, but what we've been doing on our application is requiring a photocopy of those documents. So Tom actually has a photocopy of the AMA, the FAA, and the trust cards in his
Yeah.
possession for all of our members.
And just to be clear, it's something that we as a club have elected to do because we want to demonstrate to our landholder, Fish and Wildlife, that we are applying kind of the maximum degree of oversight and governance when it comes to ensuring that every member of the club is meeting all applicable requirements to be flying on public land. So again, every club is going to police that to whatever degree they're comfortable with. We chose to be a little more conservative in that regard. And frankly, I've had a really good experience with it so far and haven't had club members push back on providing any of the information that we've asked for. We've just been obviously very polite about it, have said we want to be sure that we're as buttoned up as we possibly can be. So if any questions arise, we can demonstrate to our landholder that we run the operation by the book. And that's been a successful pathway for us.
Yeah, and Darren, also in keeping with what Tom was saying, we actually have had people show up at our field. And in particular, we fly in an area that also has a lake right beside it. So Fish and Wildlife, who is our leaseholder, owns the property up to the high water mark. And the Environmental Protection Group, Massachusetts Environmental, owns from the center of the lake to the high water mark. And it was the Mass Environmental folks that showed up one day to ask what was going on. And we told them, and we had our documents, and we had our bulletin board, which has all the safety locations and all the safety requirements for the club. And I think it was kind of a semi-test, you know, are these people real or not? And we passed the "Are you real?" test, and we haven't seen them since. And that was probably about 3 years ago.
Well, and that's the best we can ask from our clubs. And the other twist on what you guys are talking about is what Tom from the 107th just brought up, is this is an added benefit to membership in your club. You guys are keeping a copy of their documents just in case you lose one. So that's just an added benefit of being a member of your club if you're doing that, which, like you guys say, is the prerogative of the club. We don't dictate that. That's between you and the FAA, but I think that's a great way to sell it. And it's also a great way for the club to represent themselves for any authority figures that happen to come. And you guys sound like you dealt with it perfectly, and that's awesome. I applaud you on that. So so hopefully through this discussion, which has been a great one, you guys have interjected some great points, and I appreciate that. It's always great to have these on the recording as well. So hopefully we understand what the heck outreach is about. Hopefully we understand the importance of knowing our clubs and our members better and communicating that using multimedia to share our experience throughout the community and beyond it. So now we can preserve, protect, and promote our passion and our hobby. That's the whole gist of all this. And that was really my whole point of putting all this together and making sure you guys understand. This is a glimpse of District 1 over the past couple of years. Just a glimpse. We have thousands of pictures. Club activities, public outreach, educational outreach, active in every one of these areas. And we want to have people active in them. And you can read the captions on these photos to see what they're about. Educational outreach, we just had our first STEAM education Zoom meeting. We had about 10 volunteers that decided to come and get involved. I'd love to see more doing that. What we're looking to do is create a better conduit between our modelers and aero modeling and STEAM education from the educator's perspective. In other words, we've had years of clubs coming in with a whole bunch of stuff and ideas and trying to squeeze it into the educator's very, very limited envelope of time, resources, and skills. So we're trying to train the teachers to teach the teachers to teach the kids to teach the kids, if that makes sense. So it's peer-to-peer training. Have the volunteers from AMA come in and teach the teachers at an introductory level. All they're doing is training introductory level. So train the introductory pilot to train an introductory pilot, and that's it. And then have teachers teach other teachers, and then have the youth teach the youth. And then you move back as a mentor, you move on to the next school system and you go. So it works. It's been active. I've been doing this for 10 years now, and we're trying to gain some traction. So I encourage anybody who is interested in that, please contact us. If it's educational outreach, call me up. Let's talk. I'm dealing with a couple of people right now in the district, and they're doing some great grassroots efforts. And we're not trying to give you a one size fits all. We're trying to help you succeed. And that's the whole name of the game.
Thank you all for joining us. We are planning an April Zoom meeting and also doing some YouTube live stream videos while at flying events in the following months. See you soon.